Unpopular opinion: all language is good language. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't been here before, welcome. I'm Kim. This is a new channel, new podcast, and here I talk about things that are important to me that I think might be important to you too. This is series one of the podcast. It's called A Few of My Favorite Things versus Limiting Beliefs. This is episode three. And in case you haven't guessed it yet, today I'm going to be talking about another one of my favorite things, which is language. For as long as I can remember, I've been attracted to accents, the bouginess of a French accent, the somewhat groundedness of an African accent. And I've kind of always been able to tell the difference between one Caribbean accent from another. Pause right there. I love a lot of things about Jamaica, but we're not all Jamaican, I just have to say. And we're not all Trinis either. I'm from Grenada, and many other people who sound Jamaican and Trinidadian to the outside ear are from other islands. Just saying. Just saying. It's funny that we're talking about accents and the fact that I could listen to someone and generally know where they come from. Maybe not exactly the country, but the region. But for a lot of people, they're not able to figure out where I am from because, according to them, Grenadians have no accent, while some people say Grenadians talk flat, whatever that means. But as flat as our accent may be, I could definitely hear a Grenadian accent and know it. Just like you could hear the accent of your own country and know it. And that's because, like the back of your hand, your accent is unique to you, it's special to you. You know it, and it's a part of you. Just like my Grenadian accent is unique to me. So at some points, you'll hear it stronger than the standard English. You're going to hear it. The way we speak and the way we express certain ideas is rooted in who we are. That's why it's so interesting to me that people have a hard time, even in 2024, accepting that people speak differently. If we all sounded the same, wouldn't the world be bland? Wouldn't it be so predictable, expected? Wouldn't it have a little less color? Like, think about it. We can't all be the same. And just like the things we like and our hair and our skin look different, the way we sound is different too. There's so many ideas or theories about the way people speak and how that is connected to the value that we place on them. It's interesting, right? Someone just speaking naturally, because of the way that they were brought up or the language that they hear around them, simply communicating their ideas, their needs, their wants, their desires is somehow a trademark of what that person is worth in this life. That's interesting, and not in a good way. Let's not act like we don't know about these theories. There's this idea that people who are from the slums or from cities or from ghettos, because of the way they speak, they don't fit into higher society. They don't have a place in certain social settings. These ideas may sound crazy, but they're shared by a lot of people. Think about it. Have you ever heard of African American Vernacular English? Well, that's what they call the language that most Black people, especially those in cities like New York, would speak. You know, the language that's commonly spoken by the inner city children or the ghetto youths in America, is the Black ones. Yes, the Black ones. That are looked down upon, let's be honest, by the people in higher society, because how dare you say, I ain't never heard, as opposed to, I've never heard. But doesn't I ain't never heard have a particular ring to it? But most of all, do you not understand what they say when they say, I ain't never heard? You do understand. And that's the point. The thing is, one, it communicates the idea very clearly. And two, it helps them to connect with the people around them who also speak like them. And yes, there are cases where it may take a while to understand what they're saying if you're not from their group. But it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with the way they speak, simply because it has meaning for them. It's natural for them. In the same way that if I'm around my family, I wouldn't speak like this all the time. If I say, Mommy, why you cook? She knows that I mean to say, what's for lunch? Or what are we having for dinner? But I wouldn't go to my mother, who I've known for all my life, and ask, Mother, what are we having for dinner? Then she'll watch me like I'm being funny because that's not the way we speak, right? Now, in the same way that I use my home language to connect with the people that I love, the people who are close to me and the people who get me. The same way that a lot of people whose speech you don't understand stay connected to their speech and hold dear to their speech because it helps them to connect to the people that they love and it has meaning for them. Granted, I do understand that there is a time where we have to make adjustments in the way we speak for the sake of more people understanding us and avoiding communicative barriers. I get it. But that doesn't mean that we make fun of people who don't speak in the way that we want them to. That's like saying, your nose is too big. Maybe you should do something about that. Just like someone's big nose, like my big nose, is natural to me, is the same way that the way we speak naturally is inherent. It's inherent. That's just how we are. It's how we feel most comfortable. It's how we're able to express ideas in a way that we don't have to think too much about, right? And I'm not saying that, you speak in your home language in every particular setting because someone who is not from your home base is not going to understand that. I get it. But that doesn't mean that we have to mute people's expression because we feel like, your speech is not good enough. That idea of not good enough is a problem. There are several theories in communication studies, in linguistics, psychology, just to name a few of the sciences, that talk about the damaging effect of othering. In essence, when you put down people because of the way they speak, you tell them that you're not good enough to be in my circle. What does that cause? It causes them to feel like they are limited in what they could achieve, or it causes them to probably change themselves so drastically that they're no longer recognized by the people that they grew up with, the people who love them. And while change is necessary for growth, completely removing the things that are natural to you, that are innate to you, can sometimes rip apart parts of you that are simply irreplaceable, parts of you that are essential to the foundation of who you are as a person, parts of you that make you special, parts of you that make you unique and set you apart from other people. That's the problem. I can make adjustments. I've learned how to make adjustments and tailor my speech to fit into different settings. And it comes naturally for me because I had that exposure. But not everybody has that exposure to standard varieties of language, standard English, and whatnot. Not everybody has that. So when we put down people because of the way they speak, we do a lot of damage to their psyche. Why would you want to put a limiting belief on someone just because you don't like what you hear? How would you feel if someone says to you, you're too ugly to be outside? It wouldn't feel good, right? It wouldn't feel good and you wouldn't like it. So why do it to someone else? And I know, let's be fair, I know that sometimes we do these things without recognizing what we're doing. Because there are times when I've been guilty of doing the same thing, and I know that you're watching and you're guilty too. Because a lot of the times we take these things as jokes, we don't see the damage, we don't see the issue. Recently, I saw a post on Instagram that said, Bajans speak in cursive. And for those of you who don't know, Bajans are people from Barbados. It's an island in the Caribbean. And we know that of Probably all the Caribbean countries, Bajans speak a bit faster and their speech seems a bit more difficult to understand. But I could tell you, I've lived in Barbados for about 7 years and I've never had a major issue understanding anybody with whom I've spoken. So let that be the frame of reference. Let that be our starting point, in that sometimes it's not that we don't understand. We tell ourselves we don't understand because we go into the situation thinking, this is going to be hell. I'm not going to understand anything he or she is saying. So you've already told your mind, this is a problem. So your mind reacts like it's a problem and you put a block on what's going on. It's just like if you say, I don't like math. Math is hard because you may have had one or two problems doing some math sums. But if you really sat and took your time to figure out the formula, wouldn't you be able to at least get through figuring out a few math problems? I know the same happened for me. Sometimes it's the preconceived idea that we have that causes us to have communicative problems and not the communicative situation itself. So the next time you have an encounter with someone who doesn't speak the same variety of language that you do, and that means you speak English, the other person speak English, but you speak two different kinds of English. You speak French, the other person may speak French, but you don't have the same kind of French because maybe you're from two different regions of France. Just take it easy and try. There are some varieties of language that are so far different, although they may seem like they may be understood by different people who speak them, but maybe they won't be. But there's always the human aspect of things. That sometimes if we slow down and take our time, simply by making a human connection, we can understand what people are trying to communicate. And that's where it all starts. I feel like in this century, moreover, in the year 2024, we need to do ourselves a favor. Look at how much the world is becoming smaller because of the exposure that we have to each other's cultures through the internet. Look at how Piano is taking over the internet, for example. These are things that a lot of us didn't even know about because they're not part of our culture. The South African culture is seeping in now, and everybody wants a part of it. Everybody wants a piece of it because it's cool. One thing that always stood out to me as it relates to language is the fact that people kind of bash Jamaican society, but everybody wants to sound Jamaican, look Jamaican, talk Jamaican, dress Jamaican, because it's somehow become cool. I don't know if it's because of pop culture, the music and whatnot, but there's a lot that goes beyond everything that's popular. There are people, there are people behind the language, behind the accent, behind the dressing. And a lot of the times we bash the same things that we claim to love. There are people who love the music, love the accent, can't stand the people. There are people who are okay with the music because of how popular it has become, but they can't stand to hear the Jamaican accent. And a lot of the times people are put down. I've heard this with my own ears. Jamaicans are put down from the time they open their mouths because, ugh, a Jamaican, I can't. And while we have had some difficult encounters with some people from different countries, I don't think that it is fair to bash an entire country because you've had a few difficult interactions with a few people from that country. I'm just saying. In this year 2024, I think we need to do ourselves a favor and let go of these elitist ideologies that cause us to continue to put each other down because we don't like the way they speak, their accent, or it sounds too strange, or it sounds confusing, or it sounds too bougie, or it sounds too complicated, or it's too sing-songy. What's all of that? It is natural, and that's all that matters. If you genuinely don't understand what someone is trying to say, then that's one issue. But if instead of trying to understand, you're bashing that person for speaking like they do, then you're just continuing this elitist ideology that was stamped on us from the days of colonization, where Europeans told us that we were nothing because of our West African or Indian or Asian heritage and tried to change us and forced their European languages upon us. I think that it's high time that we do away with that. And rather than focusing on trying to change people to speak properly, we try to gravitate towards appropriateness. That is, just like you know the time and place to be quiet, the time and place to be loud and have fun and be free. In the same way, you adjust your speech depending on where you are. I think if we put humanity at the front of it, then we can simply all take a gradual step towards being mindful of the way we think about language so as to be more accepting of people for being who they naturally are. Because think about it. If you bash the way someone speaks, you are essentially bashing their ancestry, their heritage, the parts of their history that have brought them to be where they are now. Our language didn't just spring up out of nowhere. Our languages, different as they are, came from a history of different cultures coming together, came from a history of war, of oppression, of hate, of survival. What you're hearing in a lot of cases is survival. And I hope that if nothing else touched you in this video, the fact that you are now witnessing the result of the survival of various peoples, the resilience of various peoples, that alone, if nothing else, would help you to respect and embrace the differences that we hear around us. Because when we don't respect them, when we don't embrace them, then we cause other people to develop limiting beliefs about themselves, that they're not good enough, that they don't belong, that they need to completely change and destroy certain fundamental aspects of their lives that make them who they are, that make them as beautiful, as unique, as powerful as they are. Babes, you wouldn't want that for yourself. So let's not do that to someone else. I'm going to leave this one here before I get too emotional. But as time goes on, you will learn more about my passion for language and you'll get to understand the root of what I'm saying a lot better in case you don't yet. So until next time, love and light.